Stella was known for her impeccable culinary skills and a cheerful demeanor. Her journey to a seemingly perfect life began at a dinner party where she was the caterer. Among the attendees was Eola, a distinguished marketing executive from Diamond Bank. He had been enchanted by the delicious meal and decided to meet the person behind the magic. "Your food is simply amazing. Thank you so much, and keep it up. Your husband is one lucky man," Eola complimented with a charming smile. Stella, with her signature smile, replied, "Thank you, sir, but I'm not married." She handed him her business card, and that simple gesture was the beginning of their story. They became friends, and over time, their connection blossomed into love. Their relationship culminated in a small, private wedding attended by no more than 20 people. Stella believed she had found her happily ever after. Eola was caring, supportive, and attentive, and soon after their wedding, she became pregnant. Their daughter, Ebua, was born 9 months later, bringing even more joy to their lives. However, not everything was as perfect as it seemed. Eola's 22-year-old younger brother, Tand, had been living with him since before the wedding. He was preparing for university and stayed behind in Lagos when Eola was transferred to Ibadan. Initially, Stella was hesitant about having Tand around. She wanted a private married life. But she decided against asking Eola to send him back to their mother in the village, fearing she might be labeled as a bad wife. Over time, Stella grew fond of Tand, appreciating his helpfulness around the house. 3 months after Ebua's birth, Stella found herself juggling the demands of motherhood without any household help. Tand stepped in, eager to assist and seemingly devoted to his niece. When Stella received a lucrative catering job from the governor's office, Tand offered to care for Ebua while she worked. Stella hesitated at first but eventually agreed, trusting him as a loving and responsible uncle. What Stella didn't realize was that behind Tand's helpful exterior lay sinister intentions. He grew increasingly attached to the baby, and his actions took a dark turn. Stella began to notice subtle changes in Ebua's behavior. The once cheerful child started crying whenever she was left alone with Tand. She also became unusually clingy, wailing whenever Stella prepared to leave for work. Stella dismissed these signs, chalking them up to her daughter's moods. One night, Stella had a disturbing dream. She saw Ebua crying out to her, as if trying to convey something important. The vividness of the dream left Stella shaken, but when she checked on her sleeping daughter, everything seemed fine. She brushed off the unease, attributing it to her overactive imagination. Things took a turn for the worse when Ebua fell ill. At first, it seemed like a mild fever, but her condition quickly deteriorated. Panicked, Stella called Eola, who was in Ghana on a business trip. He urged her to take Ebua to the hospital immediately. Stella did as instructed, and a series of tests were conducted. To her frustration, the doctors found nothing wrong. More tests were ordered as they tried to uncover the root of the issue. Stella's anxiety grew as the days passed. Despite the doctors finding no immediate cause for Ebua's illness, the little girl's health seemed to decline further. Stella stayed by her side day and night, trying to comfort her, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. One evening, after a particularly restless day, Stella remembered her dream. The haunting image of Ebua crying out to her kept resurfacing in her mind. Her instincts screamed that she needed to pay closer attention to everything happening around her. She decided to take a break from work to focus entirely on her daughter. During her time at home, Stella began to notice strange behaviors from Tand. He seemed unusually nervous whenever she entered the room unexpectedly, and his eagerness to care for Ebua now felt unsettling rather than helpful. Stella started to observe him more closely, often pretending to leave the house for errands but returning quietly to monitor his actions. One fateful Saturday, Stella dressed as if she were heading to work, as usual. She kissed Ebua goodbye and left the house, but instead of going far, she parked her car a few streets away and walked back. Quietly entering the house, she headed toward Ton's room. What she found there shattered her world. The door was slightly ajar, and as she pushed it open, she froze in shock. The sight before her was something she could have never prepared for. Ton was engaging in an unspeakable act with her daughter, a horrifying betrayal of the trust she had placed in him. Stella let out a loud scream that startled Ton. He jumped back, his face a mask of guilt and panic. Stella, trembling with rage and disbelief, grabbed her daughter and ran out of the room. She held Ebua tightly, tears streaming down her face as the weight of the revelation crushed her. "What have you done, Ton?" she cried out, her voice breaking. Ton stammered, trying to defend himself, but his excuses only fueled Stella's fury. Without wasting another moment, she locked herself and Ebua in her bedroom and called Eola. Sobbing uncontrollably, she told him everything. Eola, horrified by what he heard, promised to return home immediately and urged her to stay safe. When Eola arrived the next day, he went straight to confront Ton. The younger man broke down and confessed to his monstrous acts. Eola was devastated. The brother he had trusted had caused unimaginable harm to his family. Eola immediately took Ton to the police, ensuring that he would face the full weight of the law. Meanwhile, Stella focused on seeking help for Ebua. She took her daughter to a specialized counselor and a medical professional to address the trauma she had endured. The journey was difficult, but Stella was determined to help her child heal. Eola, too, took a leave of absence from work to be there for his wife and daughter, providing the support they desperately needed. In time, Stella found solace in her faith and the unwavering support of Eola. Together, they vowed to protect their family and never allow such evil to infiltrate their lives again. While the scars of the past remained, they chose to focus on healing and rebuilding their trust as a family. Stella's world was shaken when the doctor delivered the news. "Your daughter has chlamydia," he said gently. "This is a sexually transmitted infection." "I'm sorry, but I believe someone has been abusing her." Stella's jaw dropped in disbelief. "That's impossible, doctor," she said firmly. "No one is touching my daughter, and she shows no signs of discomfort. There must be a mistake." The doctor sighed but continued, "We'll start her on medications. Thankfully, it's a treatable condition. However, I strongly suggest you look into this further." His tone was calm, but his words echoed in Stella's mind like thunder. As she returned to the hospital room, Stella gazed at her daughter, peacefully sleeping on the small hospital bed. Questions swirled in her mind. How could this happen? Her thoughts turned to Ton, the one person who spent the most time with Ebua when she was away. Yet, she pushed the idea aside. It can't be him, she reasoned. Ton loves her like his own niece. There must have been a mix-up at the lab. However, Stella's unease wouldn't subside. Determined to clear her doubts, she decided to test Ton. When Ebua was discharged from the hospital, Stella informed Ton that she had a catering event that weekend. He smiled eagerly, ready to resume his role as her trusted helper. On Saturday morning, Stella got dressed as if she were heading to work. She kissed her daughter goodbye and left the house, only to return quietly 30 minutes later. The house was unusually silent. Her heart pounded as she tiptoed through the rooms, searching for Ton and Ebua. When she found neither in the living rooms, she approached Ton's bedroom. The door was ajar. As she pushed it open, the sight before her froze her in place. Ton was in the middle of committing an unspeakable act with her innocent daughter. Stella gasped, her heart shattering into pieces. "What are you doing?" she screamed, her voice filled with rage and heartbreak. Ton jumped up, scrambling for words to defend himself, but there was no denying what Stella had witnessed. Little Ebua began to cry, reaching for her mother, and Stella rushed forward to grab her daughter, holding her tightly and shielding her from Tond. Moments later, Eola arrived home from his trip, expecting a peaceful weekend with his family. Instead, he found Stella in tears, clutching their daughter, and Tond standing in the corner, pale and trembling. Stella poured out her heart to Eola, explaining what she had discovered and recounting the doctor's earlier diagnosis. Eola's face darkened with anger and sorrow as he turned to his brother. "How could you do this to my family?" he shouted. Tond fell to his knees, begging for forgiveness, but Eola had already made his decision. He immediately threw Tond out of the house and vowed never to speak to him again. Stella demanded justice. "We have to report him to the authorities," she told Eola. "He must pay for what he's done." But Eola hesitated. "Stella, what Tond did is terrible." "I agree. But if we report him, this will bring shame to my family, and it could affect our lives in ways we can't undo. I've sent him away. He'll never return. Please, let's just move on and focus on our daughter." Stella was torn. Her love for Eola was deep, but so was her desire to protect her daughter and ensure no other child would suffer the same fate. She cried bitterly, blaming herself for ignoring the signs. "My baby was trying to tell me, but I didn't listen. I failed her," she sobbed. Eola held her close, apologizing for trusting Tond and promising they would rebuild their lives. Together, they sought counseling to help them heal and process the trauma. Eola moved his family to Ibadan, renting out their Lagos home to sever ties with the painful memories. In time, Stella and Eola grew closer, their bond strengthened by the lessons they had learned through their suffering. Stella became an advocate for child protection, sharing her story with other parents and encouraging them to trust their instincts. To all parents, she shares this message. Your children are your greatest treasure, and their safety is your highest priority. In a world where trust is often betrayed, be vigilant about who you leave your children with. Teach them to speak up, recognize when something feels wrong, and know their worth. Their innocence is precious, guard it with everything you have. Thank you for reading this story. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more eye-opening and heartfelt stories. Let's learn together and make the world a safer place for our children. Until next time, take care and stay safe. And please do not forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to this channel for more.